welcome to the last episode of the year, 2021, of Business News for the Average Person. It's New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2021. Didn't think that I would be on here this week, but there's enough news for me to talk about. So here we go. So IMF is worried about cryptocurrencies. For those of you who don't understand how that is, it's just a digital form of currency that uses this thing called blockchain technology. And the blockchain is basically an electronic ledger that keeps records on thousands and thousands of computers in the network. Okay, as opposed to, when you have a transaction with your bank keeps a ledger, you keep a ledger. No, just think about it as thousands of other people also keep ledgers so that, it is very hard to hack. Anyway, you heard of Bitcoin, Dogecoin, those are cryptocurrencies. And the reason why the IMF is talking about it is because there's a risk. They're afraid of money laundering, scams, fraud, etc. Right? It's not regulated basically because it's a decentralized form of um, payment. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see what they say, and as 2022 comes around, the governments around the world will continue keeping a close eye on cryptocurrencies and possibly pass stronger regulations to regulate them to protect people from being scammed or defrauded. Okay, Uber and Lyft could soon have a hard time denying drivers full-time worker status. I know we've been talking about this thing for a long time now. I think in Britain earlier this year they talked about how Uber and other gig um, companies can't classify their people that work for them as independent contractors anymore. So I think 2022, especially with the shortage of gig workers, might be you might see it being done differently than over the last few years, and perhaps the heyday for gig work might be over for the companies, right? Okay, more than half of U.S. states will raise minimum wage, but employers are hiking pay faster. This is a good thing, right? Because for years after the Great Recession, pay lagged behind productivity and profits of employers. So now employees didn't seem to think that paying workers more so that you have less turnover was an important thing. Now that they realize it, hopefully productivity increases because of the increase in minimum wages, as employers look for ways to cut down on the use of labor, probably looking harder into seeing if machines and computers or upgrading machines and computers will reduce the need for labor, probably even redesigning their workflow to use less labor. So this is a good thing. Okay. Yeah, for workers. Okay, that and it is also bodes well that employers are being a lot more responsive to the market than they were before. All right, $4 gas could be here by Memorial Day. Okay, so yeah, so right now gas has fallen because of the Omicron variant of the coronavirus. I'll talk more about this later. And coupled with shortages of delivery work drivers to deliver the gas, and so on and so forth, up the supply chain. Just to put it in context, in many countries around the world, people don't pay $3 to $4 per gallon for gas. They pay the equivalent of $8 to $10. So in the U.S., we have it pretty good. Not to say that it would not cause hardship. Right now, prices are still relatively low, so that's a good thing. But um, but experts predict that gas prices may go up. There's nothing you can do. You would just have to pay more. Yeah, because most people do not have storage tanks, at home to store up when gas prices are low. So, okay, holiday sales jump 8.5%. Okay, so consumer confidence is strong. That is good. When consumer confidence is strong, people keep spending, employers will continue hiring theoretically. So that's not a bad thing. Yeah. And a part of this is probably got to do with inflation too. Of course, when things cost more and you need the thing, you obviously have to spend more, right? Okay, Omicron fueled staff shortages. New Jersey Walmart shuts down after 90 workers test positive. So, in the next few stories I'm going to share, you're going to see how. Okay, see New York subway lines suspended due to COVID staffing shortages. Okay, Delta turned flight around mid-air because of China's new COVID cleaning rules. Flights are being canceled because of shortages of staff calling in sick, you know. And it's not for lack of pay. Yeah, because as far as I understand, at least a couple of months ago, were paying lots of overtime to flight attendants, right? So, yeah. So more flights canceled earlier this week. Okay, you can see here a lot of companies are shutting down stores, canceling flights. Airlines are canceling flights, domestic and international because of staffing challenges. Okay, so again, I don't personally, I never like to travel during the holidays. It's stressful enough. Okay, what with it being more crowded at the airports and on the planes, then you have travel related challenges. And then now there's this stay home if you can. Yeah, I don't recommend traveling. Changing gears a little bit, China plans to tighten rules on overseas IPOs. IPOs are initial public offerings. So basically, when companies want to get publicly listed to raise money to grow their company, right? A lot of Chinese companies have been issuing IPOs on U.S. stock exchanges, in addition to parallel to listing them on the Chinese stock exchanges. So China is, tightening its grip on on large companies because they want more control. The Chinese Communist Party. And so, this is likely to be the start of what economists and experts and politicians call decoupling. So you're going to see the unraveling of close economic cooperations, I guess, between U.S. and Chinese companies, and it may lead to a tit for tat response, right? It started with the Trump administration. One of the things the Trump administration did was to look closer at Chinese companies that are listed on U.S. stock exchanges because of fears of falsifying numbers. So, yeah, and you might think that I'm not interested in China. I don't have any stocks invest in Chinese companies. Wrong. If you have any stocks, if you have any retirement funds, it's very likely that your money is either invested in Chinese stocks listed on the U.S. stock exchange or directly invested in Chinese stock exchange itself. Nothing to worry about here is what I feel. However, something to watch more closely. in 2022. China's industrial profit growth tumbles as raw material prices fall. This is a bit baffling, right? If raw material prices fall, shouldn't profit increase because costs go down, right? So, of course, it's never as easy as it looks, particularly when you deal with social sciences like economics. Okay, so what is going on is property market and weak consumer demand. We all learned about the how the property market is crashing in China. That a large company who has defaulted on its debt. So, back to, linking this back to the story I was just talking about, decoupling of the US and Chinese economies may not be a bad thing here because, China is not truly a free market. So it takes true understanding and knowledge of how the country and the Communist Party works in order to succeed, right? Okay, fees for US passports. Okay, they're gonna raise the fees. Everything's going up except our pay, right? So just so you know, yeah. And of course, with the pandemic slowing things down, if you are traveling, if you need to renew a passport, even if you are not planning on traveling, because I encourage you not to travel just now, right? Always get things done before you need them. So, yeah, if your passport is near expiration, start thinking about renewing it now rather than when you need it. COVID pill. KFDA authorized a second antiviral pill, so things are turning around. I keep saying that, COVID it looks like this is a major turning point for COVID to become a turn from well, be, become endemic from being pandemic. So, like the flu, it's going to be with us. It's going to kill people, but we are going to learn to deal with it with medication, with proper precautions, with vaccinations, and so on. So, and it will help the economy recover. Okay, Omicron less likely to put you in hospital is what preliminary studies suggest. So it spreads more easily, but less likely to be that serious. So again, more evidence pointing it to it being endemic. Okay, another story that talks about that Omicron could burn through US and potentially hasten COVID pandemic's end. So that becomes endemic. Okay, that's what I explained just now. More evidence of that. Changing gears, talking about U.S. Treasury yields. Okay, people invest in put their money in U.S. dollars when they're fearful, driving yields up, right? Okay, so shouldn't really affect the average person here. Does it affect your mortgage rates? Yes. But you refinance when it's advantageous for you to do so, and or you need the money for when you do cash out refinances. You buy a home when you're ready to. Um, the rates are gonna cost more or less depending on what the flavor of the day is, right? But that should not affect the average person profoundly. Okay, more news about decoupling from Chinese economy. Biden signs bill banning goods from China's Xinjiang region over forced labor. Okay, this is, I suspect that the news is not that big right now because of the holiday season, but come next year, you're going to see, again, you know, um, yeah, a lot of tough words coming up from both sides. Earlier this month, or was it last month, the federal government announced that U.S. diplomats will not be attending the Winter Olympics in Beijing. So yeah, they're stepping up the heat there, using some of these things to pressure China. Um, you know, so sales of newly built homes tank as affordability hits buyers. We knew that prices keep going up. on new homes, even existing homes. So sales are going to go down. So yeah, if you are a mortgage broker, if you are a realtor, real estate agent, I would worry. Yeah, because you're just not building enough homes. If you're in construction, good for you. Stay in there, right? It's a good time to go into trades, being a you know tradesman, right? Learning the trades. Okay, finally, the last story for the day, the year, Amazon unionization efforts get a boost under settlement. Okay, so yeah, it looks like a unionization efforts amongst what we traditionally call blue collar jobs. Starbucks hit the news earlier this week in Buffalo, right? Now, Amazon, yeah, yeah, you're going to see stronger workers' rights. This might be a renaissance of stronger workers' rights. Personally, I don't think that that may be a bad thing um, for employers because it means that they may find it easier to recruit and retain workers. Of course, the downside of that is it's harder, right, to fire bad workers. This good and bad. Um, the I don't see any news about stocks of Starbucks or Amazon going down because of unionization efforts. So if you're invested in those companies, I don't think there's a major thing. If you are an employee, especially in industries where they seem to be unionizing, working in a factory, at a warehouse, this it may be a good thing for you. All right. So, and then of course on the whole, this will ripple through the labor market, and you know, bringing better things to people who rely primarily on selling their labor for money to make ends meet. Alrighty, so this is the end. Thank you, and please consider subscribing. I'm building this channel to teach people about business news and how it affects the average person. Decipher it for you. So please do not um, hesitate to tell me in the comments what you might want me to talk a bit more about, explain a bit more about, focus more on in the coming weeks. Thank you. Stay safe and have a good New Year's Day celebration. Don't drink too much. Thank you.